The passengers on Flight 327 were settling into their seats, unaware that the next few hours would test every assumption they had about courage, judgment, and who truly becomes a hero when everything goes wrong. Among them was Maya, a quiet black woman traveling alone, dressed simply and minding her own business. She wasn't the type to demand attention, which made her an easy target for a flight attendant who had already decided she was just a passenger, someone unimportant, someone easy to dismiss. From the moment Maya stepped on board, the attendant's sharp tone followed her small comments. Disrespectful looks, whispered remarks meant to embarrass her. Other passengers noticed, shifting uncomfortably but saying nothing. Maya stayed calm, choosing silence over conflict, even though the sting of being judged sat heavy on her chest. She wasn't looking for trouble. She only wanted to get home, but as the plane climbed higher, something felt off. A strange shudder rippled through the cabin. The lights flickered. The captain's voice, steady at first, suddenly shifted with a tension no one could miss. People glanced around, confused, uneasy. Even the flight attendant who had mocked Maya moments earlier began to panic, her confidence fading fast. And then, in the middle of the rising fear, Maya slowly stood up. No one knew yet that she held knowledge no one else on that plane had. No one knew that the woman judged as just a passenger was about to become the only person capable of saving them all. But the danger had just begun. Maya felt dozens of eyes following her as she rose from her seat, but she kept her movements steady. She wasn't trying to draw attention. She was simply listening, really listening to the strange rhythm of the engines and the faint alarms she recognized from a life she rarely talked about. No one on this plane knew she had once trained in emergency response before switching careers. No one knew she still carried instincts that never truly faded. The flight attendant who had mocked her earlier stepped back, confusion mixing with fear. A moment ago she had been confident, dismissive, but now her voice trembled as she tried to keep passengers calm. Maya didn't blame her. Even the best crew could be shaken when something unexpected hit. Thousands of feet in the air, passengers whispered among themselves. A baby started crying. Someone pressed the call button repeatedly, desperate for reassurance. The cabin felt tight, the air heavier than before. The soft overhead lights flickered again, casting shadows that only added to everyone's worry. Maya moved carefully toward the aisle, her mind racing through possibilities: electrical malfunction, engine trouble, a pressure issue. She had seen similar signs years ago, but this felt different, more sudden, more unpredictable. The captain still hadn't made another announcement, which only made the silence scarier. People began looking to Maya without even realizing it, as if her calmness alone meant she understood more than she let on, and she did. But what she sensed now, it wasn't good. Something deeper was unfolding, something the passengers weren't prepared for. And as the plane gave another uneasy shudder, Maya knew they had only moments before the real emergency revealed itself. The next jolt was stronger, a quick shake that made drink cups rattle and a few passengers gasp. Maya steadied herself on a seat back, her mind piecing together the small clues. Something critical was happening behind the cabin doors, and the crew either didn't know how to handle it or didn't want to alarm everyone until they were sure. But the uncertainty was already spreading like a quiet wave through the plane. Near the middle row, an older man clutched his armrest, whispering that he had flown for 30 years and never felt a vibration like this. Across the aisle, a teenage girl tried to calm her younger brother, promising him it was just turbulence, even though her voice cracked with doubt. Every row held its own small struggle, fear wrapped in attempts at steady breathing, nervous glances, and forced smiles. Maya noticed the flight attendant again, her earlier attitude replaced by a rigid panic she couldn't hide. She kept wiping her palms on her uniform, glancing toward the cockpit door, as if waiting for it to open. It didn't. That alone told Maya something bigger was happening. The captain should have responded by now. A sudden beeping sound echoed softly from the front of the plane. A warning tone Maya recognized but hoped she was wrong about. It meant whatever issue they were facing was escalating. Fast. She took another slow step forward, trying not to alarm anyone further. But people were watching her more closely now, sensing she understood something they didn't. And she did. The problem wasn't just mechanical. There was another layer to it, something hidden, something the crew had not yet revealed. And Maya feared that once the truth came out, the entire cabin would shift from worried to terrified. But the moment of truth hadn't arrived. Not yet. The plane jolted again, sharper this time, sending a ripple of panic through the cabin. Drinks spilled, overhead compartments rattled, and a collective murmur of fear rose from the passengers. Maya gripped the seat in front of her, her heart pounding, but her mind remained laser-focused. Every sound, every vibration, every flicker of the warning lights told her more than words could. This wasn't ordinary turbulence. This was something far worse. The flight attendant stumbled down the aisle, trying to issue instructions, her voice shaky and uneven. "Please remain calm," she said, but no one believed her. Even the older man in the middle row, who had flown countless times, looked pale and unsettled. Anxiety spread like wildfire. Parents hugged children tighter, couples whispered reassurances that felt hollow, and a few passengers prayed quietly, hoping it was just a false alarm. Maya's eyes darted to the cockpit door. It was closed, locked, and silence seeped from it like a warning. She knew the crew were trained to handle emergencies, but the hesitation and lack of clear direction only confirmed her suspicions. This situation was spiraling out of control. The beeping alarms grew louder, punctuating the mounting tension. From another angle, she noticed a young flight attendant frozen near the emergency exit, unsure whether to act or stay put. Maya realized the real challenge wasn't just the mechanical threat. It was fear itself, the way panic could paralyze even trained professionals. She took a deep breath and began moving toward the front of the plane, eyes scanning, mind calculating. Every second counted. Every heartbeat was a reminder that lives hung in the balance. The passengers didn't know it yet, but the woman they had dismissed as just a passenger was about to face the defining moment that would determine whether this flight ended in disaster or survival. And then the plane shuddered violently, louder and longer than before, throwing cups, papers, and fear into the air. The violent shudder left the cabin trembling, passengers clinging to their seats, eyes wide with fear. Maya's heart raced, but she forced herself to stay calm. Focusing on the patterns, she could see the flickering warning lights, the strange vibration in the fuselage, the tension in the crew's movements. Something didn't add up. The mechanical problem was bad, yes, but there was another layer, something nobody had expected. Just then, the intercom crackled. The captain's voice came through, strained and urgent. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We are experiencing an unexpected situation. Remain calm." But the words only heightened the panic. Maya knew that the delay in clear instructions often meant the crew were fighting a problem they couldn't fully control. Then came the second twist. A soft metallic clatter echoed from the rear of the plane, near the cargo area. The passengers didn't notice at first, too focused on the shutters and alarms, but Maya's instincts screamed at her. That sound shouldn't be there. Something had shifted in the hold, a secondary threat she hadn't anticipated. Maybe it was a dislodged panel, maybe something more dangerous. She didn't have time to analyze. She just knew she had to act before fear and chaos multiplied. The flight attendant who had mocked her earlier stumbled again, visibly shaken, glancing toward Maya as if suddenly realizing that the woman she had dismissed might be the only hope. Meanwhile, whispers grew into nervous murmurs. Eyes darted toward the aisles and the front of the plane, and tension thickened until it felt like the cabin itself was holding its breath. Every second mattered. Every movement was critical, and the passengers, oblivious to the full scope of danger, had no idea that the quiet black woman they underestimated was about to face not one, but two life-threatening challenges all. While the plane hurtled through the sky, closer to the moment where the real test would come, Maya moved quickly, her instincts guiding her as the plane shuddered violently again. She reached the cockpit just as the co-pilot's hands trembled over the controls. The captain's voice was tense, tight with fear. "We've lost partial control of the engines, and there's pressure dropping in the cargo hold." Without hesitation, Maya took charge, her calm authority cutting through the panic. She instructed the crew to stabilize the cabin and reassured the passengers in a voice steady enough to anchor them. "Stay seated, stay calm, and trust me," she said. Projecting confidence that wasn't just for show, was the only thing keeping people from spiraling into chaos. Rushing to the rear, she assessed the cargo hold situation. A mechanical hatch had shifted, threatening to depressurize part of the plane. Using quick thinking and knowledge of emergency systems, she managed to secure the hatch with a combination of crew, teamwork, and makeshift tools.